Okay, so I'm using these cover holes like we're using in this scenario here. During the day it's getting above freezing, but at night it's getting pretty darn cold. So we're getting a crusting freeze at night. The water's frozen on the ponds and stuff. So we're using cover holes. The trap's bedded in the dirt that's below it because it's not that cold. It's not going to freeze that deep. And so we're using cover holes for the primary cover. And the trap, like I said, the trap is bedded. And then just some of the local dirt like that on top. You don't want to get too heavy with it because if it gets wet and then it freezes, you can actually pull that off of there like a big cookie, and we're trying to avoid that. So this dirt is definitely not dry, but it's a little damp. I don't think there'll be an issue with it. And those cover holes, even if they get a little damp and they kind of want to freeze together, they break apart real easily when an animal steps on them. So they make a really good cover for bad weather. Freezing weather, that kind of thing. So anyways, that is what we do when we're under the conditions that we're in terms of crusting freeze at night. Okay, for the other part of how to use cover holes when it's freezing and it's a lot colder than just having that surface crust. So what we typically do, and like I said, I'll admit that we're in Arkansas and we're really not going to run into that problem here, but we run into it a lot, certainly at home in Indiana and some other states that we've been in. So typically what we'll do is we're going to put, Justin started putting his salt in one of these 16-ounce squirt bottles, and it works a lot better. We always just left it in the 1-pound containers that you get at the grocery store because it's got the flip top on it. It's super handy. But once they get a little damp or a little wet, they don't hold up, and then you got a mess. So these work perfect, and it keeps your salt nice and dry. So you just squirt a little bit of salt on the bottom of your trap bed. You can actually squeeze it, and it just comes out perfect. And it's nice and fine. And then you want to try to have that dirt where you can bed the trap the best you can. If that dirt right there is frozen, of course, at that point you're gonna have a hard time just digging that out. You're literally gonna have to use a chisel, something like that. Guys have even hammer drills or hammer chisels or whatever to get that dirt when it's frozen that hard. So I think I would think of something alternative at that time, maybe go to snaring or whatever. But if you're able to do this and you're worried about that trap freezing down, which is very possible, put your salt down, and then we just put like a handful of cover holes on top of the salt. Kind of just gives you a little more of a buffer. Those cover holes kind of got a natural wax to them, and then we're going to get that trap bedded in there the best we can. So I'm going to take some dirt and I'm still going to put that in there like so. So we got the trap bedded securely, and then I'm going to take this salt and I'm going to go around those trap jaws. Now, this will rust your trap. So your trap, it's good to use a well-waxed trap, and that'll keep that rust under control. I'm going to use a pan cover, like we always use a pan cover. I'm not going to count on that trap firing. You can use the underalls, whatever you want to use, polyfill, but we use pan covers. When we're here in the South, where we got these gray foxes and they like to mess with your set, we have found that the wax paper works better than the fiberglass screens. At home we use the fiberglass screens, they work perfect, but here we've had a lot less problem with these because they droop down around the pan and they're less likely to have something grab them and pull them out. So we're just going to take these cover holes and put these on where the trap is. Spread that out. A little more salt. And that's more for the dirt that we're going to put on top. And then we're just going to sift a little dirt on top, because obviously if it's that cold that you got to be concerned about that freezing up, you probably got a wind and you want to keep those cover holes from blowing away, and then this gives you your natural blend. So we got a little bit of trap dog showing right there. We're going to try to get that covered up. And then we're just going to take the salt and we're going to go over the top. Now that salt will dissipate. So usually within a day, that white is gone, and it just kind of liquefies and just goes right down, and then that won't freeze up. So that works very well to keep that trap working with the combination of the coveralls and the salt, and we're doing the best we can to bed in that trap bed in the dirt that's there. So you can use little rocks. Some guys even drive nails in the ground to have that trap on to keep it from tipping. Any of that stuff works fine. Whatever you kind of play around with. But when things are getting super cold and it's going to be freezing well below that, just that top surface crust, then this is what we do, and it works quite well. So hope that helps out with the issues that you got when it gets cold.
All right, here's the set that we made actually 2 days ago with the salt on top, and the salt is for the most part pretty much dissipated. There might be 10% of it remaining there. Some guys get a little concerned about salt, feeling that it's not natural. It's very natural. Obviously it's mined, so salt is perfectly good for an antifreeze, perfectly natural. It'll keep you going when otherwise it's difficult to keep the trap working. So it's just a good option for cold weather trapping.